Welcome to the Code Deploy Go Live podcast, episode 28. I'm Julie Turner, and I'm here with Andrew Connell. If you want to watch this episode as a video, head over to our YouTube channel. You'll find the link in the show notes. In this episode, Andrew shares what he found from picking through the latest release of the M365 Agents Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. Microsoft quietly released a new version, 6.6.0, on March 9th, 2026. And so far, at least at the time of this recording, they have published no announcement. It's a big release, so stick around to hear what's new. This episode was recorded live March 17th, 2026. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hey, Andrew, what's going on?
I'm a little trashed. It's St. Patrick's Day. No, I'm just kidding. Haven't anything yet. And it's everything's good. Kind of like same old stuff. I do have one fun thing that I've done since we last recorded.
Fun thing.
So it kind of came together at the last minute, but I had the opportunity to join AvePoint, which is, if anybody doesn't know this, they're a big ISV in our space. I had an opportunity to join them in New York City at the NASDAQ, a stock exchange, where they rang the opening bell and they had invited me to be part of it.
Fun.
There was a community event going on the same day, Agent Con New York, which is like a global thing. And they just kind of like SharePoint does like Dev Days and like SharePoint Saturdays and everything. It's kind of like that, but it's all around like AI stuff in the Microsoft space. And invited me up. And also invited in a bunch of other speakers. It is cool. This is a cool little benefit that if you're a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ, which AvePoint is, once a year you can apply to ring the bell that morning. And so AvePoint did it as a marker for launching their new product called Agent Pulse, which I got some ideas for you on this, but think of it as like how Microsoft has Agent 365 that they announced at, I guess, Build and Ignite in the last couple conferences. And I think it just went GA too, or it's going GA soon. What their product is, Agent Pulse, is think of it as like going above and beyond what Agent 365 does. And it not only does it for your agents in in Microsoft's platform, it also does it for agents if you are a company that also is taking advantage of Google and their agent-based platform. So, and of course, they're probably doing a lot more stuff than Agent 365 does because that's what ISVs end up doing. And they've got a history of doing this kind of stuff. So it's really cool. It was cool to kind of see the behind the scenes. It was kind of funny because like I wanted to get a picture of myself up there at the podium with like the NASDAQ stuff. And I totally I should have taken like this last opportunity. We were all leaving, that you go in, they show like that you go in, they have this like little like social thing that you end up doing or kind of like meet and greet stuff. You then go through, do a bunch of pictures before the bell opens. Then they do the stuff with the people who are sitting up there when they open the bell. And then, they call it opening the bell, which is, I thought it was just ringing the bell, but it's opening the bell.
Okay.
And then afterwards they do a bunch more pictures. And so I wasn't up there when they rang the bell. I was up there for like the before pictures and the celebration pictures like after they rang the bell. Or I guess I was there in the back. All you see is just my big forehead in the back, right? So I'm sitting there, my mom was watching it, my dad was watching it, a couple friends were watching it, and they're like, well, where are you going to be? And I'm like, I'm not really sure I'll be up there. My mom's like, I didn't see you. I'm like, well, if you know my forehead, you were looking at in the back, you would know where I was.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is right when it's over, right? So NASDAQ has that like circle kind of LED board on Times Square.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So immediately after that, we walked outside. And of course, that's when we're all funneling outside. That's when I had an opportunity to go get at the podium, get the photographer to take a picture of me. And I didn't take my opportunity because I felt like, should I do this? Should I not do it? Is it kind of like, this is their event? I didn't do it. But you go outside and you stand out there on Times Square with the board in the background, and you just can see like what they showed when it was all live. And then they show a bunch of stills. And of course, like I'm seeing them rotate through all the stills. I didn't know they were rotating it, but I saw a picture of like me, like the full length height of the board. And there's a picture of me standing there just like very stoic watching them ring the bell.
Wow.
Like all suited up, tie and everything. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I was trying to scramble to get my phone out and couldn't get it out in time. I was like, oh my God, I completely dropped the ball on getting that picture. Thankfully, it was on rotation. So I'm like, I'm gonna hold my phone out in case they do it again. It was cool. It was a cool little experience.
That is a cool experience. Very good.
Yeah, that was fun. How about you? What you been up to?
Not much. Yeah, we're just back from vacation, heads down, just working. So I got nothing fun to report.
Yeah.
Other than if you want to hear that my son overslept and missed the bus this morning. That's the only thing that happened.
I have
We have to teach him about snooze. He does not know snooze yet. I forgot. I was like, oh, damn it. I forgot to tell him about snooze. So he told the alarm to stop, and then he fell right back to sleep. Anyway.
We have a full week of oversleeping right now because we're on spring break, and my daughter, we're not going anywhere this week because we didn't know like what my son's plans would be between 2 quarters at school, and ends up he's going to come home about halfway through the week. So we're like, we're not doing anything for spring break this year. That's okay. But at any rate, we went to London and Paris last year, so I think we're good to do nothing.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
So anyway,
cool.
Very cool. We get to spend time together in real life next week.
I know. I'm excited.
At the MVP Summit in Redmond at Microsoft.
Yeah, it'll be fun to sit in sessions together and go.
Yeah. I guess, you can't say it. I love this week, but oh my God, it's exhausting because like the mental load for the entire week is like paying attention to what's going on, like thinking very critically, because I mean, the fact that we're not just there getting like content delivered to us. There's a lot of engagement, and
100%.
Like for me, people like you, people like our peers, there's a lot of freaking smart people in the room asking really like thoughtful, challenging questions. Yeah. And like trying to come up and like, it's a mental taxing. It's not a bad thing.
My most exhausting event that I go to. And I've said this to you before. It's one of the reasons why we're not staying at a hotel. We got a house rental simply because I am able to wind down and shut down a little bit better than going out to dinner every night after as well. Like I need time to shut down. And so that ability to like get food for dinner, come back, make dinner with the people that I'm sharing the house with, and just shut down it's huge. It's just huge. So what else is going on for you?
Well, I'm working on something big. Yeah. Something big for Voitanos that I'm really excited to announce. I think that it'll be, it's something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And I finally hired a coach to get me, to help me with this, to help me plan it out. And I hired her for a couple months to get it done. And if something ticks me off, like the two things that get under my skin more than anything is wasting money and wasting time or like stuff like that. So I hired her to help me do this. And if I don't see it all the way through, I will have just been wasting my money through this. So it's a really good forcing function for me. I'm really excited to announce it. I'm just going to tease up that an announcement is coming.
I'm excited for you to announce it.
Yeah, you know what it is. You know it's coming.
Yep.
But it's going to, so I'll announce it, and it'll be something that I think that if you are a fan of my work, or if you are interested in the stuff that Julie and I do, I think it will apply to you. I'm looking forward to sharing it, but that'll be early April when I have an announcement for that. The other thing is I got 2 webinars that are coming up related to declarative agents. We'll talk a little bit about some of the changes today that'll apply there. So one is like both of them are more on the getting started aspect to it. So those are coming up in the beginning and the middle of April. And I'll put links to those in our show notes for people to register if they're interested. 2 free webinars.
That's good. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
I want to take a few minutes before we get into the meat topic to just ping on a few SharePoint framework issues that I think that have come up recently that are in various states of status, I suppose, for lack of a better way to say it. I will include the links to the GitHub issues in the SharePoint SPDev docs repo for you to peruse if you need more information on them, but I thought we should highlight them. So the first one is one that actually got fixed finally this morning. Essentially, people were finding that the debug manifests, essentially the query string parameters to debug a SharePoint framework solution in the SharePoint UI was broken and it had stopped working. And, Microsoft engineering finally got on top of it, fixed it this morning. They're trying to do a root cause analysis, but at least it's fixed. And so at this point now, you can start using the query string parameters to debug, essentially point to your local host running of your solution so that you can debug it in the browser. So that's one. I have one out there that's been out there for a little over a month. And nobody said anything about it, but in case it's important to somebody else, if you have a SharePoint Framework application customizer and you're using the fixed placeholder setting, so essentially in one of the feature XML files, you can specify the height, a placeholder height for the application customizer. What I like about doing that, if I can do it, is that essentially when the page loads, there's space reserved for your application customizer to render in at the top of the page so your page isn't jerking. So if people need to click something really quick that loaded lower, and they go to mouse over it and click on it, it's there and it doesn't jerk on them, which is one of my hugest peeves on websites in general. At any rate, what's happening is, for some reason, not in a dev build. If you're doing a dev build or you're debugging, this doesn't happen. But if you are doing production, essentially it'll put that placeholder with the fixed amount of height. But then when it renders your application customizer, it creates a second div below the placeholder. So the placeholder hangs out up there with like placeholder loading vibes to it. And then your application customizer ends up pushing the page down and taking up more space. So it just looks horrible. Stefan Bauer helped me figure out a CSS play to work around it, but hopefully somebody will look at that sometime soon. I get that it's a niche one, but whatever.
But it's still, I mean, that's like, I don't know. This is a little frustrating because you posted about that one over a month ago. It looked, I mean, I can see the date on it was February the 12th, and we're recording this on March the 17th. Like you, I posted one, a bug that was confirmed as a bug on January the 20th. I don't know if this thing that with the debug manifest that stopped working, I don't know if this is related because it's like what was going on with it is similar to the same error that I was seeing. So I want to go back and want to double check and see if that's the case, because from my experience, starting on January the 20th, you could not use that debug manifest to load a field customizer or a list form customizer. If you packaged it and deployed it, everything worked just fine. But you could not test a field customizer or a list form customizer. And I've got like screenshots that proved it. And then they came back and said, yep, it's absolutely a bug. We've been able to reproduce this and create a bug report and we'll see where it goes. And there was like, I've gotten like nothing on this, no updates. I even asked like 3 weeks ago, it's been a month, any updates, and still nothing. So it's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, no. And it's similarly, ironically, I had CORS issues. And I think you might recall back when you posted this, I had sort of a variation on that where I was just getting, because there's a new feature coming out, and gosh darn it, if my menopause brain could even wrap itself around it. But essentially you have to, I know what it is, not what it's called. You have to register external URLs in a new list inside of the admin center in SharePoint so that they can be loaded for you. And the name of it is, Andrew Connell,
CSR, the client-side rendering.
That thing.
No, CSP.
So
CSP.
CSP, yes. Anyway,
cross-site
I was getting CORS errors for those CSPs not being registered when, in fact, it was supposed to not be live yet and it wasn't supposed to be blocking. So I was seeing and experiencing issues where I couldn't get files to load that were external, like APIs that I had written, Azure function like API endpoints. I couldn't hit those. And I was getting CORS errors for hitting them. And yes, I know you could have a CORS error but this is client-side CORS issue. So at any rate, lots and lots of crazy little issues as engineering team modifies the SharePoint platform out from under the SharePoint framework extensions, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it.
What's really frustrating about this stuff, what's really frustrating about this is that these are all things, these errors that we're finding, these are all things that you can build a test for that will, the developer can run this and there can be an automated test that runs that would fail this thing. Like you could do this with Playwright. Like you could spin this thing up and you could spin up a site and say, go load this and have the debug manifest. And the damn thing would actually fail. I don't get why the hell.
Yeah.
This is.
Yep.
I don't know. I think that as far as I wrote this years ago, and ironically, when I was heading into the MVP summit, I got a lot of grief for saying this, and I might just write this up again and publish it before we go to the summit next week as an update to it. But I'm like, can you consider SharePoint an app dev platform when you see this kind of stuff going? No, I can't. I said it wasn't an app dev platform years ago, and I got called out in a big keynote by a VP, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, Mike. That's the way I feel about it. Got called out during it. I'm thinking about doing the exact same thing, walking into this and being like, you know what? You don't like it? Fine. I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, it's just not stable enough.
It's not. I don't blame people for questioning, should I consider this as a place to build my next app? I don't blame you for asking that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
anyway. Yeah, the problem is the adoption cycle, right? They've kind of got you in golden handcuffs is probably the wrong word, but this is the platform where everybody, if you've adopted it into your organization, it's sort of the platform that you do everything on. And as far as like user experience, extending that platform to give people ways to do extra things is the right answer. It is the most frictionless answer for people getting stuff done. And, it's hard to want to send them somewhere else to do something that is just a slight variation on the thing they're already working with, which is, SharePoint lists and pages and libraries and documents and whatever. If it's variations on that theme, having them be in that place makes the most sense. So it's tricky. It's really tricky.
Yeah, it is. But
anyway, yeah, I know. Disappointed. All right. Well, we should just move on and start talking about our main issue, or our main topic, for today. And that is around the drop of a version 6.6.0 release of the Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit. I would say, since you did a lot of the research on this, that you should take it away. If I have comments or questions, I will obviously add them because that's who I am. But I'll let you start and tell us what you found when you saw this new release come out.
Sure. So I got a tip that this was going to drop before it dropped. And then I went and looked at it and I was like, wonder what's in here. And there wasn't at first I didn't think there was a lot that was in here, but the more I dug into it, I'm like, oh, there's actually a lot here. Kind of felt like that movie Contact when the guy was looking at the signal, all the stuff coming in, is like, there's a lot here. Anyway, so for those who don't know, the Agents Toolkit, this is the successor to the Teams Toolkit. It is used to create add-ins for Office products like Word, Excel, Outlook. You can use it to create any kind of app in Teams, like a tab, a personal app, a chatbot, a message extension. And then you also can use it to create agents, not just declarative agents for M365 Copilot, but you can use it to create custom engine agents. And there's even stuff, and also like Microsoft Graph connectors for augmenting like knowledge and the semantic index from stuff that's not already in your tenant. And then the other thing now is that we have another template type as well. So there are a few new things. There's a few things that have gone GA from being in preview, and there's a bunch of bug fixes, but there's some weird stuff that I'm still seeing here. And I've got a long article that's about a 21-minute read that details a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to refer to, in our podcast, I'll go through like more high level of it. And then if you got questions, we can talk about it. But if you want to get like the real details of like some of these items, I'll call out like where you can learn a lot more about the specifics as we go through this.
Cool. So I think it would be good. I noticed that there's like these 4 headline items. So maybe if we just go through those one by one, that'll make most sense.
I wish there was 4. Like there's actually like 6. But anyway, I got you. I'm right there with you. You're right. There are 4 main ones, and then there's like some other stuff that kind of.
Okay. I thought I knew how to count.
You did. All right. So the first thing that they did. This is funny because this is actually about 2 years too late. But the first one is that they now have support for the government cloud, the GCC environment. So previously, when you were creating stuff with the Agents Toolkit, it wanted to connect to your 365 environment, and it wanted to connect to your Intra environment, so that if you were creating like an app, the default templates had like SSO enabled. And when I would go create the brand new app, it would try to create the Intra ID app and it would fail, but it wouldn't just fail, it would like hang. And then when it would ultimately fail, it would kill the entire build. So I posted about this, actually I used it as an example for a class that I was teaching with somebody who was in GCC, and showed them how you could customize the entire, like the way the build toolchain works and the environments and phases, lifecycle phases of how you could remove this, and was able to unblock this one student that I had. And I wrote up an article about it, and I've got a link to the article in my big roll-up post that we'll have in the show notes for this. So now it does support that. It doesn't support GCC High and the DoD clouds, but it will do that. So right now it's just the sovereign cloud GCC moderate, like GCC kind of, moderate. I just leave it at that.
Oh yeah. That's definitely going to be a good addition because the GCC people in the GCC tenants tend to feel like they're left out of everything. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So then this one is interesting. And I know a little bit about this, but this is a very cool thing. Embedded knowledge for declarative agents. So this is an interesting sort of shift. I like this idea. I think there's lots of scenarios could be good for. So if you want to take it away.
Yeah. So this is kind of the area I see as like two of the big focuses are in this release. And so the first one of these two things, improvements around declarative agents, is around embedded knowledge. So what you can do in a declarative agent, for those of you who aren't familiar with this, you can use JSON and to define your agent, like a JSON manifest, where you effectively define 3 or 4 things. You give it the instructions. So what's the system prompt addition you're going to have for your agent. You can add capabilities. And capabilities are things like accessing data in SharePoint or accessing data inside of the semantic index for a specific Microsoft Graph connector configuration. So the data you've uploaded or ingested that way. You can connect to things like get information about people, get information about Teams chat messages, searching websites. There's a graphic one for building images, another one for doing code, the code interpreter, where you can have it get a bunch of data and then tell the code interpreter, I want you to write Python to generate a chart. Data visualization of the data that you just grabbed. So and then the other one is like you can do plugins where it's like going to an external REST API. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then the last one is here's your starter prompts. So what embedded knowledge is that this allows us to now include knowledge that instead of just saying like, hey, install this agent and then go upload these files to SharePoint, so that now the agent has access to these files and you in your instructions, you say, go leverage those files. What's cool about the embedded knowledge is that now I can include that knowledge as part of my agent's install so that now the only way you can get access to that content is by using my agent. For example, what you can do, there's a demo that I do when I'm doing declarative agents where I use a PTO request, so part-time off or vacation request. And what I've been doing in the past was uploading a Word doc that's got the corporate PTO policy to a SharePoint library, getting the GUID of that file, the unique ID of it. And then in my agent, I then say, you have access, your capability of OneDrive and SharePoint, you can use this specific file, referencing it by GUID. What I can now do though, is instead of that extra step, I can then say, just install the agent and I can include the PTO policy as knowledge with the agent itself. Right? So you're limited on how many files you can put in there. They're all stored in like a private SharePoint embedded container. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Oh, okay.
That that Copilot has access to. So it's a great way to go through and to deploy an agent that's got knowledge that you don't have to then tell your users like, let's add additional stuff. So this was a feature that was demoed at Ignite in November of 2025. And it went GA this time. So pretty easy to set this up.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. And you're going to be doing a workshop on this, baby? In April?
I'm doing my declarative agents workshop at the end of, thank you, Julie. I'm doing my declarative agents workshop at the end of April, the next cohort of it. Registration's open for it. First 25 people that register get $50 off. And I'm looking forward to showing this as part of my PTO request agent that we'll create in our demo. So yes, it will definitely be covered.
Like I said, I think this has a ton of good applications that can be made. One of the things that I find is the opposite of this is I really wish they had better, and I think this has to do with well, it probably has a lot more to do with their ability to understand where content is coming from when they get references and have like a plugin or an agent or something in their orchestration that allows them to do this filter. But one of the things that I think is very much missing from any of this stuff is the ability to target your agent to specific groups or like a Microsoft 365 group and its stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like I would really love that ability to dynamically say, I'm putting this agent somewhere and I want, and because you're here, the code that I have around my custom whatever I put in because of what container it's in or whatever, like if it was a Copilot agent or a declarative agent or a something, you could like put a toggle that says scope to
Yeah.
the container. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it would automatically go, oh, okay, I'm running, or this question is coming from this Teams team or this SharePoint site. So that means I should know what the group is and then limit my scope to anything in that group. And I really wish they had that ability.
Yeah, so today we can't do that. You're right. So today we can't do that directly within the agent itself. You can get a little creative. And
100%. And I've done
Yeah.
it, but it's kludgy at best.
yeah, it is. I mean, like you could set up like a data file that says, what group can I actually filter on or something, or you can have the agent actually like prompt the user, like going, hey, you haven't told me where to look. And then I could use that as part of my query and my lookups. Again, you've got an issue with like the default workflow, and you've got an extra step when you deploy it. It's not ideal. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
It would be, I
I've been
agree with you. It'd be nice to be able to deploy it and then have a customization option or a settings option.
Yeah, I've been playing around with the chat API to try to create something like this. Like, so the SharePoint framework plus the chat API, and how can I target wherever it is? And because I know where I am, because of the context of the SharePoint framework solution, I could be running in a Teams team or whatever, but I know via the context what site I'm in, what group I'm in or whatever. But telling the orchestrator when you're making the call to the API, how you want to filter it, poor at best. So anyway.
I don't disagree. Don't disagree.
That's too bad.
So that's
All
a
right.
new one. That's a new thing on the knowledge side of declarative agents.
Very cool. All right. So then the next one is the MCP goes GA. So yeah, why don't you dive into this one? I will. Anyway, yeah, you go ahead. I'll listen.
So
then I'll comment.
no problem. So this is another thing that they previewed at the Ignite conference last year, and they've made some changes to it since they did the preview. So effectively what this is that if you've built a DA, well, I guess going back, remember what I said about like the different things we can have for declarative agents? And one of them was actions/plugins. Effectively, we're defining a tool, right? And in the past, we've been able to point to like a REST API that we want to talk to, because when you define the action, you define like, here are the different quote functions you have access to. So here are the tools that you can call. You then map that to what is the runtime for that tool. And in the past, the only runtime we had access to was the Open API, not OpenAI, but Open API. So like a Swagger spec, so like Graph or something like that. What this does is that this update says now we can have an additional MCP, an additional runtime. Actually, there's two options here for MCP. One of them can be a remote MCP server. So one that is running like is hosted by somebody else. The other one is a local plugin. So the style of doing like npx space and then name the MCP server that you want to spin up. So the way that this works is that when you define it, conceptually, it's actually pretty simple. The same way that we defined our functions before, and then we would have a runtime and say, that function lives inside of this runtime. So it would have this exact same name as the endpoint that we defined in our runtime definition. For the MCP server, we say, this function is the name of the tool in this MCP server. And so I specify that function name, they kind of go together. So that way we can have our declarative agent call a tool in an MCP server the same way it does with like a function. So pretty simple to set up. You do have to define, you have to go through and add this as like at build time, all right, development time. Today, it does not support doing this it can't just figure out what MCP tool to use. So you have to actually tell it, these are the tools that are available. Like if you have an MCP server that's got 50 things it does, in your declarative agent, you have to pick which ones you're going to use and you list them as functions. And then you say these functions are available inside this MCP server. And you still have this limit of like per prompt, you're still limited to just 10 tools per prompt on action. So it can't figure out all the tools that are available to you.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's no
what do you envision the local plugin being? And I guess the reason I'm asking this is because if you're building a declarative agent and that's going to run in a SaaS platform, what is local?
So good question. So think Okay, so think about, I'm actually doing this right now. So, and you actually, you know this, you just don't know you know this. We use a service for publishing our like social media stuff on the podcast, right? They have an API. They do not have an MCP server. So what I've done is I've created my own MCP server, but the way I spin up the server is it runs locally on my machine when I want to use it. It doesn't run in the cloud. So when you say run it, they're all deployed using NPM packages. And so you effectively say, and you don't have to install it. You just say npx-y. So say, yes, I want to install it. And then space the name of the package and then any other arguments that go along with it. For instance, some of those arguments could be, I'm not going to say the service we use, but that service's API key. And I can have that spin up. So I don't have to worry about standing up and hosting an MCP server for an API that does not have an MCP endpoint today. It's one that I would have to end up spinning up and I want to use.
Okay.
So that runs, I assume, like I haven't tried it yet, but I presume that that's going to run in like some like Docker container or something like that on the Microsoft platform.
I still do not see how this is going to make any sense because it's, well,
you
would spin it up in a container that could be accessed. It's not local as in running on your machine. It would be local as in running in an Azure container of some kind that you could point this at.
Yeah. So I have not tried this yet, but there's two ways I'm presuming how this works. The local plugin piece, you would not spin it up on like an Azure container. So option one is the way I understand this is that when I specify in the definition local plugin, it's going to like when Copilot needs to access this MCP server, it spins it up in its own process for a few seconds. Think like a GitHub Actions or a DevOps thing. It spins up a tiny little container, it runs it in there, and then it calls it locally. And when it's done calling it, it throws it away. That is option A. That's what I think that they're talking about. The other option is if that's
way more sense.
Yes. If that's not the case, then what they would end up doing is you would end up having to start it to spin it up on your I don't see how this is actually going to be the case, but I'd have to spin it up on my local machine, and Copilot will call my local machine through like localhost to get access to that data. So like, would that allow me to open up tools to like change stuff on my file system? I don't think that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's what okay, so everything you just said is why I'm reading local plugin and going, what? What is that going to be? So, okay, it makes way more sense, like to explain it like a GitHub action type of thing or anything like that. That makes way more sense. I was thinking local my machine, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. Actually, I'm writing a little note to myself. He's like, that's a good question. I'm going to go double check on that before we publish this podcast episode.
Well, at least I didn't ask a dumb question. That's always good.
Yeah. There's not dumb questions. There's dumb answers.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me change something I just said. I recorded this after Julie and I did the recording because I said something that was pretty inaccurate. When it comes to the MCP servers, the only MCP servers that are supported in Declarative Agent are remote MCP servers. That local plugin option, when you use that, you're referring to an Office add-in. So that would be a way for your Declarative Agent to call a Office add-in that is running in the same client where Copilot is running. Okay, let's get back to the podcast.
There's not dumb questions.
Well, so while you're typing, the next one is kind of shocking. So the big template cleanup, you called it in the notes. I love that.
Yeah.
61 templates removed. When I read all the notes on all of this, I was like, okay, I just don't like the leave a bunch of people on their own because agents. Martha.
Well,
Or it's Marsha. Actually, Marsha. Anyway.
When I say the big cleanup, so far, my interpretation of what I've seen is of those 61, it's not like the vast majority. When I say vast, I mean like over 80 or 90%. They're not templates that I could have gotten to by saying create new project and then go through the little wizard and it actually creates that project. These are old projects that we could not create anymore because they've disappeared from the menus.
Okay.
So they've gotten rid of some of them.
There was also an aspect of disappearing from the menu that wasn't really great either.
No disagreement there, but that happened in the past. That's not what this is.
Understood.
There are some things, though, that were cleaned up and that were ditched, right? That are no longer available to us. So for example, before when I wanted to build So let's go back you said in my accelerator, I think 2 summers ago, about a year and a half ago.
Yep.
And when we did bots, you had an option when you created a bot. Do you want to create a command bot? Do you want to create it was a command bot, something else, and a notification bot. And earlier this year, or actually, sorry, it was late in September of 2025 when they released a bunch of updates. Those options were no longer there. So if I want to create a bot, it would just say, okay, here you go. And it's like, what happened to all that other stuff? And it's because the SDK, when it changed, it dropped some of those concepts because those were just patterns. They weren't types of bots. They were just development patterns. So those templates were still there, but they dropped those options. There was no such thing as a notification bot. A notification bot was a service that initiated the communication with teams. So to send a notification in. So those are gone. You can still build all of those things. It's just that, ATK doesn't have a template for it. ATK doesn't have a scaffolding for it. Some of the ones though that were there's some stuff that was also done about with some of the existing templates got that for tabs did get yanked out. That is some of the stuff that they did.
So here's my take on this though. So the ATK brings you in and gives you all these templates and sort of makes it very hard to understand what the baseline development pattern is. And so they get you into these templates and you think, okay, well, I'm going to build these things and these are the templates and this is kind of how it has to be done. And they obfuscate a whole bunch of things because of those templates. So then they move forward and they take away those templates. And for the people who didn't dig deep and understand fundamentally what was actually being done, they are now in this position where they can't build one of those things without the template anymore. So they'd have to go back to one they did before, or as you're going to point out, they're still available in a GitHub repo, but you're setting people up to not be able to get to where they need to go in the future. You're not teaching them, you're abstracting some stuff and getting them fast started, but they don't know what they're doing. And thereby, they're not learning enough to actually be able to work without these templates. So then to take the templates away just drops those people on the floor so that they're not going to keep using your product. This is not an adoption model that has any longevity in it. Do you understand what I'm sort of saying?
I understand exactly what you're saying. I think that the model that they're moving, they haven't said this. So this is just what my observation is. The model that they're moving towards is the templates will do the basic, and then you can extend it to do other stuff. And they can coach you through that. I think what I would prefer they do is they go with that approach. And then if anything, they give you things in skills or agents that you can use GitHub Copilot or Claude Code to then walk you through how do I add this to my existing project? Because it's really hard to kind of stub that stuff out on and make it a one size fits all without just starting with the template, right?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
So it's nice. I kind of like that direction they're going in, but you're totally justifying what you said, that because you started this other way and people started creating tabs and they always got an Azure function to do the server side aspect of their stuff, and the SSO was set up for them by just hitting F5 and everything just was done. You don't learn anything. You don't learn how this stuff works. And so then when the next templates come out and they don't have an Azure function on there, you're like, what the hell? I'm used to the Azure functions. Oh no, it's different. Now we're just using a Node.js Express server. Okay, let me figure that out. Oh, and by the way, we took out SSOs. You got to add that yourself. How am I supposed to do that? It's in the docs. Yeah, but in the template, it was there. So to me, I'm fine if you want to go with, give me the basic and then let me extend it from there and add my stuff. Cool. But you should have started that way and not say, now let's add the basic stuff, but we're going to throw away all that other stuff that we were telling you before because we probably shouldn't have done that in the first place. It's I'm sorry, you already dug the hole. You can't fill in the hole right now because there are people who rely on this. And there are people
in the hole. You can't dump dirt on them.
That's a great way to say it. Yeah, that's a great. You can't sit there and sit there and fill the hole up when the people are still in there. Because what this does is that what I've said before to the engineering guys and the team that owns this tool, I'm like, you guys lack empathy for your developer experience. Because when you do this kind of stuff, developers are going, screw this. If you're going to keep doing these code resets, I'm not going to keep doing this. This isn't reliable. And it's the platform hasn't changed that much. It's just the experience that developers have is just shifting all around. It's damn it, man, how many times can you move my cheese?
Well, that's exactly it. And we've had this conversation before. It's the one reason why I will not adopt ATK at all. If I need to do this work, I just do the work. I taught myself how to do the pieces, thanks for springboarding me. But as soon as we had that thing and I went through some of the things, I went, this is scary because I don't fundamentally understand what this is doing. And so I had to backtrack and go deep into learning the pieces that I needed to use so that I could actually use them. And so I just never fully adopted it.
So you might like this. There is a new thing, although I think it's a bug, and one of the engineers is disagreeing with me, but I've got proof in a GitHub issue that shows this. You might be interested in that there is a new command on the ATK CLI that you can start with your project however you see fit. But now you can go on your project, and if you've got the ATK installed, the ATK CLI installed, you can run ATK init on your project, and it adds in those two project files so that you can get that whole provisioning, deployment, and publishing lifecycle phases that you can then configure the way that you want them without starting with one of their templates. So to me, the big benefit of ATK is not so much of their templates. I'm not a big fan of their templates. The big benefit of ATK is simply the project that they spin up to give you the M365 agents.yaml files, the local one and the one that's for the cloud. We used to call that, I think, Teams app.yaml. And then it also gives you the launch.json and I think tasks.json that are the two files for the debugging stuff and spinning stuff up inside of VS Code, inside the .vs Code folder on your project. That, I like that because those actions that they've defined in those project files, that's nice to let me assemble my tool chain the way I want it. I like that approach so much more than what we have with the SharePoint framework today. It's like doing my CD, but doing it all locally. It's the same kind of a setup as I have with like GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps.
Yeah. No, I could see that.
They say that command is in the latest release of the CLI. I've got proof that I'm using the latest version of the CLI they published, and that command's not there. And even their help docs say it's not there. And when I go to run it, it's like, that's not a valid command. He's like, well, it works on Windows. I'm like, I don't give a damn, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm sure you don't. All right. So I mentioned about the old templates being available in a GitHub repo.
Yep.
3 new templates added. Did you want to talk about those?
There is 2 Python ones. They basically created a port of the existing custom engine agent for Python, and they created a port of the weather agent that they had for Node.js. They created in Python. They have added a new one for creating a Foundry agent using TypeScript. So 3 new templates.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So then you have some under the hood type changes. Do you want to talk about those little details? It looks like a few little
These are
bits and bobs.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what they are. This is just like my grab bag of a whole bunch of stuff. A bunch of manifest change. So like the Teams app manifest is now, when you create a new project, is version 1.25. That only added in one new property called supports channel features. So the idea with this is that if you have a project, if you have a Teams app, like a tab or bot or whatever, that is being installed inside of a team for private channels or shared channels, they're treated differently, and the app is not automatically installed in those channels. You have to manually go install in those. This supports channel features. When that's set to, I think, tier 1, which is the only option available today, then when you install it at the team level, it'll be available in all of those channels. If you don't specify that property, it will not be available in the private and the shared ones. You have to manually go install those yourself.
That's a cool change. I like that.
If they refer to it as tier 1, that means, well, what's tier 2 going to be? I'm like, I don't know. It could be like the SharePoint framework and that HTTP configuration that is, which one do you want? I want V1. What are my other options? There hasn't been one in 8 years. So sorry. So that's one. The other one is all of the bots. When you create a bot, they all default to single tenant, not multi-tenant anymore. That's the way they should have been from the beginning.
100%. That was so annoying.
Yeah. There's some other little minor stuff, like when you deploy stuff to Azure in the bicep templates, they default to if you're using Node.js, they default to Node 22 instead of Node 20. They changed the default SKU, which I thought this was weird. They changed the default SKU from F1, which was the free SKU, to B1, which is a paid SKU. And I'm like, why'd you do that?
Yeah, that's
whatever.
Well, that's a little shitification if you ask me, but whatever.
Yeah. They also got rid of the step across, and this is like the biggest change across all the templates. This affected, I think from my research, it touched like 83 files, but it doesn't, that's just template files. They removed the action from the, I think this is in the provisioning lifecycle. When you're creating an app, there's an action called Teams app /validate manifest. It checks to make sure your app manifest is valid. And they got rid of that. And I'm a little confused on why. I think that why they did this is because there's another place where you validate the package, and I think the package validates the manifest. So it's kind of like, why are we doing this twice?
All right. Well, if that's the case, then that does make sense. But
because I mean, creating the package is such a fast thing because it's just zipping up text files and 2 images. So it's like,
well, and you do need to verify that the images are the right sizes. So it would make sense to do it at that stage versus at the manifest stage, if that is in fact the case. So that actually makes sense.
So, and there was other stuff too. Like I said, like the Teams app manifest got updated. The declarative agent manifest got updated, I think, to version 1.6. The actions manifest that we use in declarative agents bumped up from 2.1 to 2.4. A lot of changes in that. I've got those detailed in the docs. It was 2.1 to 2.4. 2.4 is not. 2.3 was what was used prior to this release of ATK. It's just the templates we're using a much older version. This newer version is the one that's got knowledge agents, or embedded knowledge, and MCP servers in it. So that stuff's all done. So there's a little bit of stuff like that for some different manifests that were done. There's still some things that are still not fixed that I think they should fix. Like there's a thing in there where if you're setting up SSO for your tabs, you can do something called nested app authentication, and you have to have like the port number in the URL that's used for this. They still don't set the port number. You have to manually go in and add the port number to an environment variable that's added. I mean, it's an extra step. It's kind of stupid we have to do it, but whatever, it is what it is. I think overall, though, all of these changes that I saw, just to kind of put a button on it, is that to me, it really shows that Microsoft is really trying to push just like agents. I mean, shocker. But the tools are doing that too. And the thing that is, I'm really confused by this. I said this in my article. It's a little perplexing to me that the engineering team is putting all this effort into declarative agents and all these things we can do with declarative agents, embedded knowledge and doing MCP servers. And there's a bunch of other stuff that's coming. I'm privy to that I know that they're working on that I hopefully will see what they announced at the Build conference. I'm not going to say it right now, but it's like, there's a lot of cool stuff that they're working on here with declarative agents. Yet, even when I was sitting up at the Agent Con up in New York, I watched a keynote speaker, a name that we are very familiar with in the dev space, stand up there and did a slide during the keynote and flat out just did not even show declarative agents again. I'm like, what in the hell why do you guys keep doing this? And I spoke to that person after the keynote and I was like, here's a slide that I use. Why do you guys keep missing this? Here's the slide you use. Why do you ignore this? Customers actually want to, when I tell them about this, like, I didn't know it was an option. That's exactly what we want. Like, why do you keep doing that? It's like, yeah, we just don't think about it. I'm like, you're in marketing.
Don't think about it?
Why am I the one that has to keep being the one to kind of like push this message here? It's a completely valid option. So it's super frustrating, but if you look at the article, at the end of the article, I've got a whole thing in there that shows that I took a picture of the keynote, blacked out some of the faces that were in there. And I was like, why are you missing this again? So whatever.
This is ridiculous. Yeah.
It's stupid, but regardless is what it is. And hey, that's fine. I'll teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
Microsoft's docs show you how to do it. The tools support it. So clearly it's not an Andrew thing, but whatever.
But it's just causing people to be irritated with Microsoft and whatever. It's just not a smart play. And it does feel like they are on a completely different planet than the engineering teams. It's like the marketing teams are over here doing their own little thing and the engineering teams are over here doing their own little thing. And they're not talking to each other.
No, it's frustrating. But I mean, like you said, whatever. I can't. It's frustrating. Yeah. So,
yep.
But that's it. That's it.
Cool.
I'm looking forward for the declarative agent stuff, though. I'm going to show all this stuff in my next workshop that I'm doing. I'm also doing a workshop on this at the M365 community conference in Orlando. I almost put myself in Vegas.
Yeah.
In April.
In April 22nd, I believe. I wanna say.
Yes, that's right. I am doing, So the week before my workshop, my virtual workshop, I'm doing a similar workshop, a full day workshop on the same topic. So I'm looking forward to sharing all this stuff then.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Wow. So did we do it? Did we wrap it up? Did you have any last words? No?
I don't. It's a good update. It's a little long in the tooth. I mean, it's a lot of stuff here. It's a lot of under the cover stuff that a lot of people aren't even going to notice. I wish they stopped doing stuff to the damn templates. It's like, that's just hard to like write docs that you have to keep updating and stuff. And it's just like, it's an abrasive experience for the developers.
You're going to be Googling stuff that doesn't exist, and you're not going to, it's just, there's so many bad things about it. It's just.
Yeah. Whatever.
Anyway.
So,
Anyway.
I'm done.
Cool. All right. Well, so let's move on to our last little bit. And I have to be thoroughly impressed with us because we're under time so far.
We're not done, Julie.
Okay, valid. We only have picks left, though, so let's see what we can do.
All right.
All right, Andrew, what is your pick?
Okay, I'll go first. I found this cool site that I'm absolutely loving, this world of like agentic development or agentic engineering. I love using Claude Code. I love using it as like a sidekick for working, not to do all my work, but I really, really enjoy it. And I really enjoy the fact that I can make it my own to get stuff done. There's a whole concept of plugins. I referred to these in one of my picks in the past. Part of plugins, plugins isn't, I love plugins. The other thing I really like about what they've done, and this applies not just to Claude Code, but also applies to GitHub Copilot as well, is being able to do skills. And a skill is just like, when you are doing this is how you should be thinking about it. This is how you should do it. So really like you could build a skill that says, hey, whenever I do commits, I prefer to use the conventional commit pattern. And I don't like to write prose as the body of my commit. I like to use bullet points. I like to use a certain set of emojis for things that are being done. I like to use this scope, etc. There is a site. My pick is called skills.sh. This is a kind of like a Yellow Pages, or well, for those of you who are our age, Yellow Pages. For those of you who are not our age, Google for skills that are all out there, like on the internet that people can submit, and you can see like the install, like how what the install counts are. It checks because all the stuff is usually deployed using either from GitHub or through like NPM packages. You can find tons of skills. I've found a couple really good like plugins that have a bunch of really popular skills. So doing lots of different things. And unlike so much of the stuff that's on the internet for everybody to use, I found a lot of Azure stuff in here too, a lot of Microsoft stuff.
Nice.
So that's my pick for this week. How about you?
I actually love that. I talk to Bob German, our mutual friend, pretty often, and we check in. And he was telling me about some stuff that he's working on. I mentioned this before. He's doing a lot of work on locally hosting LLMs and what he can do with locally hosted LLMs. And he showed me a couple weeks ago that he had Claude Code running on his local LLM, which was really cool. And I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And then this week he was showing me about how he has got it in training mode where he's like having it do things, like putting it in what he's calling learning mode, where it creates markdown files with the things that he learned how to do when he asked it how to do something. So like, teach me how to do blah, 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 and then put my notes. And so he's got this like way that he's writing notes. And it got me thinking, and I was like, oh, you know what I want a skill for? I have a GitHub repo that is all of my shortcuts, like like years and years and years worth of markdown files that have like titles and descriptions and then code snippets in them for like, here's how I update a location field in a SharePoint list because it's undocumented, it's hidden. I need my own documentation, right?
Yep.
And I said to him, I'm like, you know what I want? I want a Claude Code skill that I can point at my repo with all my markdown stuff in it. And when I go, hey, I need that thing that I do when I figure out how to do a location field. Can you go get that and put that here? That would be helpful. So
I'm going to show you something. Not right now, but I'm going to show you something, how you could you can do that as your own little way to customize it. So you would have it across, like if you have a desktop and you have a laptop, I'll show you how to do it to make your own. It's called a private marketplace. And you basically create your own suite of plugins and say, I want to use this on this project. I want to have this skill applied everywhere. So like for that, what you just said, you could optionally install that skill just inside of a project. a SharePoint project that you're working with, but you wouldn't do that in another project where you're not talking to SharePoint.
Yeah, exactly. That
So-
kind of thing. Although it has like all my bicep stuff that I've already figured out and all my Azure Function stuff that I figured out. Like all the things are in there. So it'd be handy. Anyway, we could talk about that more later, but
Those
it would
are
be
all
fun.
separate plugins, but I will show you what I'm doing,
All
and I
right,
think
cool.
you'll like it.
Well, this could be a fun thing that we could talk about and work on together.
There we go.
All right.
What's your pick?
I have a few picks going, but I've decided I'm going to land on a book I'm finishing. I'm literally on the last chapter, and I have really loved it. We talked about this a long time ago, and I finally found a source for it. So I don't read businessy or thought-provoking books. I read fiction. So I read avidly, 52 books a year easily, but it's all fiction. And I cannot get myself to read nonfiction. It literally puts me to sleep in like 3 sentences, but I can listen to it. And I didn't have a source because I didn't want to pay for Audible. So I didn't have a source. And then long story short, I found a source through the library so that I can borrow audiobooks. Anyway, so now I have it. And the first book on my list of books was The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Now this book came out in 2019, but wow, mind blowing, like fundamental shift to the point that we've been talking about it in some praxis, because what he's talking about in this book essentially is there are 2 types of games in the world. There's the finite game, like a football game or any kind of sporting event or anything like that, where there's a set of players, a set of rules, a timeline, the thing is going to be done. And then there's the idea of the infinite game, which is sort of like living is the infinite game, right? We are born and we die, but everything around that keeps going, right? And his argument is sort of, or the thing that he's talking through is how business can either be playing a finite game or thinking they're playing a finite game versus playing an infinite game, and how organizations that play or do business as if it's an infinite game do better, end up being better in so many ways, and reaping more rewards than those who play it as a finite game. At any rate, that's the base principle. One of the best parts, it's early in the book, but he makes the comparison between Apple and Microsoft. So this came out in 2019. He was doing talks for both Microsoft and Apple, and he talks through how when he went to Microsoft, they gave him a Zune as like a speaking gift, right? Like, thank you. They gave him a Zune. And he loved it. He thought it was awesome. Like, the user interface was great and blah, blah, blah. But when he was talking to somebody in like the car ride, they were talking about how this is going to beat Apple and we're going to win and blah, 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 blah. And when he went to Apple later, he, did their thing or whatever. And then he was in the car with that person, and he said, a person from Apple, and he said, Microsoft gave me this Zune, and I got to tell you, I really love it. I think it's pretty great, and Apple doesn't really have anything like that. And I'm paraphrasing, but essentially the person he was talking to is like, oh, I'm sure it's wonderful. But the sort of end point is right after that, they came out with the iPhone. So It's like they were playing the infinite game and not the finite game. And he's got lots of more examples. There's so much to take from it. It was really inspiring to me, definitely inspiring to my Simpraxis team. And we're sort of trying to take some of the learnings that we got out of it and make it more part of our day-to-day in our business. So anyway, that's my pick for this
Are
year.
you on Goodreads?
Yes.
Okay. We have to be friends then. I read this. I was going back and looking. I was like this is familiar when I saw that you picked this. I was like, let me go check. Like, yep, sure, cool. All right. I read this back in May of 2021. I loved this book. It's all about the growth mindset. It's just like, I'm always can learn. I can always work to make something better. I hate with a passion in our work where people are like going, this company has won or that company has won. I'm like,
there's no
this
winning.
is not a zero-sum game. There's somebody can lose, but it's the whole idea of like, if you can just keep trying to build on what you already know, or trying to just keep innovating and just keep iterating on something. I agree with you. It's a fantastic book. I have 2 thumbs up, big time thumbs up on it. I love it.
It was really good listen. So I'm psyched about that. In general, I'm listening to and following Simon Sinek even more and more and more. His body of work is really fascinating. So
yeah. Cool. Very cool. Awesome.
All right.
I love it. And I'm right there with you. I do the same. Like I listen to this style of this stuff. I can't read it because it puts me to sleep, but I can absolutely listen to it.
That's same. So cool.
Awesome.
All right, sir. Well done. We managed to keep it within a reasonable amount of time.
Reasonable for us.
Yes, reasonable for us.
Cool. Well, Julie, good to see you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah.
And
be great.
Yeah. See you next week.
Did you like this episode? Please like and share it with your friends. We are on YouTube, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. All the links are in the video description. If you have a question, head to codedeploygo.live where you can send it in. Also, sign up for our mailing list on our site at codedeploygo.live to learn about future episodes, opportunities for listeners, and get the show notes from each episode sent straight to your inbox. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks.